Greetings, everyone. Rev.Hawksblood here, calling from the big island of Hawaii. All right, the title is, to me, the most important title on the planet, most important word on the planet. You could say it in a lot of different ways, but it only means one thing, whether people want to understand that or not. So I'm going to go into a couple of different views. Your view, people's view, my view, and the truth. The old saying is your truth, my truth, and God's truth. How many people know God's truth? Yes, people know their own truth, hopefully, and whatever that means to them. But how real important is it to the world or to life or to everything else around it? All right. The chat's open for questions. All right. Please, I don't need any mush stuff coming in. But if you have an important question, please do, because I think it's the most serious thing to talk about, most important thing to talk about, and the only thing important to talk about. We could talk about science. We could talk about evolution. We could talk about aliens and government and all that other stuff. But where does it all lead? All those things lead nowhere. They lead to reincarnation, meaning back to this planet. And to me, this planet is called hell. Nobody wants to admit that either. But we're going to go over the reasons why and everything else along the way. Now, there's 2,000 religions, roughly. There's more, but there's only 3 incredibly crowded religions, meaning the highest number of people that follow them, and 2 have more people than all of them together. And one of them is Christianity, and the second one is Muslims. Christianity, I think, is about 2.6 now, and Muslims are about 2.3. So Muslims are catching up. But the problem is, how much truth is in any of their teachings? Is it beneficial for humans, or is it beneficial to the planet? And what really reaps the rewards of them? Christianity has multiple branches off of it. There's other religions which are important, but what I'm against is any religion, any path that goes against a woman's right and freedom, or allows them to be persecuted in any way through their religion. And that takes in a couple major religions. All right. Persecution means like women can't do this, women can't do that, women have to do this, they have to do that. We're allowed to beat them, we're allowed to this. They can't get married unless they're a virgin. All those kind of things. It's not put on men, never was. And just so you know, people, when I talk about God, God doesn't equal love. Love doesn't equal God. Especially man's perception, sorry about that, or people, women as well, their perception of God, what it is. Sadly, it's based on what? The Bible, mainly. All right. When you go outside of the Bible, then you go into the UFO world. Then you go into aliens. And then before aliens, there were words called deities. Deities were never God. Aliens were never God. But let's start with deities because they're the oldest. And the first religion on this planet was Hinduism, and they worship deities. Now, our definition of God is really lame today because they have a definition of most powerful, super powerful. That doesn't make you a God. In this reality, you can be considered a God because you could do things other people can't. But just to show you how false that could be, even in the cowboy days, you had traveling salesmen selling fake liniment that makes you does miracles. I did a magic show doing the same routine, and people lined up with money to buy it in my magic show. I'm serious about that. All right, but in the old days, they did a lot of trickery. When they came into town, they knew a lot about astrology. And if you know a lot about astrology, you can predict a lot of things that are going to happen, like an equinox, eclipse, and all those kind of things. And when you predict that right before it happens, you become a Superman, especially to people that don't understand astrology and that there is proof of things and things like that. But that's not making them a god. Going back to the days of, let's see, way back, like the stories of Hercules and people like that, how real are they? How real are deities? How real are aliens? If I told you they're all real, would it matter? It is not a part of our reality in the present moment. Deities aren't walking the planet. All right. Angels aren't walking the planet. I'm going to get into that a little bit because people associate death with angels and God and everything else, but they don't relate to each other really in any way. All right. Now, if you don't like me, you don't like what I'm saying, you don't have to stay here. This is only for people ready to open their ears and eyes to listen and see the truth. All right. By going through an experience. How do you hear the truth? When it's recognized within your self-consciousness, awareness, which is not the universal consciousness, which is not real either. All right. So many people are being swept away by the illusion of where we are, meaning planet Earth, I call hell, meaning who controls it, what controls it, and why is it controlled? Well, if you understand history, which is his story, a lot of it's not true. And it's squeezed together so man could put what it feels, and I call it an it when it has no truth involved with what it's saying, out there. The laws that women have to go by and things like that. All right, who controls that? Who was the main controller of all those things? Now, let's get this straight. I will debate anybody or everybody together, meaning all the UFO people, all the so-called spiritual people, or religious people, on the word God, on the word death, on the word reincarnation. Anytime, anywhere, any place, my show, offline, their site, they're all afraid to talk. I can name a bunch of people. Let's see one name that I should say really fast. I wrote him down. Don't tell me I didn't put him here. Saved by the Light was Danny Brinkley. Conversation with God. Let's see what else. Oh, Neil Diamond Walsh. All right. That's more pertaining to the exact subject. But then you got all these other people talking about gods and things like that, like the Anunnaki and calling them gods and things, which is a farce, so far from the truth. It's amazing that people can accept it and believe it. What I noticed, if you write something down, maybe 1,000 years from now, somebody finds it, they'll believe it. Why? Because it's old. They believe the Emerald tablets. They believe the Sumerian tablets. They believe documents and stuff. You know, they're still finding the Gospels. All right. One of the last ones to be found was Judas's Gospel. And believe it or not, 2 different separate copies were found in different places. One was real and one was not. But one of them was found by Billy Myers. Billy Myers is a UFO person that came out in the 50s, and he's out there talking about aliens, the race he deals with, and everything else. All right. I'm not saying the race isn't real, but check out his videos, his work. The ships do the most stupidest things for an advanced race, and they never gave anything really important. Except Billy Myers came out with a prophecy of 100 prophecies. In 1950, he gave them to the world. 89 of them came true as of 2 years ago. I don't know. I gave up following him, but they came true then. All right. But does that make him God? Prophecy doesn't make a God either. Nostradamus was never a God, and he was pretty accurate in a lot of his prophecies. A good friend of mine, Sean David Martin, was a psychic, and he predicted a lot of things. Did that make him a God? No. People that claim they're a God, like a few people, I don't even want to say their names, but check out a person, Victoria Liljenquist, something like that, Liljenquist, and then check out Lawrence Wendell, Wendell. All right, both of them are like really high up there. They're superpowered beings, and believe that. All right, and people believe they're changing the world. I mean, I could throw Drunvalo Melchizedek in there. Nasar Harriman thinks he can change the vibration of the planet by uniting the Ark of the Covenant with the one he has. These people come out with incredible stories. And now in the UFO world, they went from abductees to experiences. And an experience means they have a great experience. What's that have to do with God? Everything or nothing. It depends how you want to look at it. Now, religions talk about Jesus being God. You want to debate that any day. Well, the Bible says, what does the Bible say? One sentence in the Bible tries to say Jesus said he was God, but he didn't say it. All right. It was put in there like an idea that I am. Jesus never said it, never would admit he was, never tried to, because he was never God. Sorry, people that follow Jesus. I believe Jesus is the most powerful, most spiritual person that ever walked this planet. Now, he's in another realm. He's a great teacher. He was a teacher. He was one of the few teachers in all of history. In all of history, as far back as mankind and animals and creatures and aliens can go, all right, that could teach about a real God. And sadly, that's not in the Bible. Asking for forgiveness, protection, and all those words aren't equal to God. They don't relate to God. I'm going to go into that more so than anything before we get into other stuff, because people say, oh man, every time I get involved, I open my window and have a fan on, but anyone that follows and believes that statement, God watches over them, protects them, and all that, they don't understand it. It's not written out in the Bible because nobody in the Bible understood it either. Forgiveness, going to a priest, the minister, rabbi, or somebody, and having them forgive you. What's that mean? God doesn't. Nobody can voice the voice of God, including conversation with God. That's the way I'll word it. He claims he talks to God. Really? God comes down to talk to him, to tell him what? God loves everybody. We need to love everybody. But that's not true, people. God doesn't need all of us. And don't forget, there's multiple universes and galaxies and worlds out there with different races, different people. And we're not the only race. Aliens are what we were, meaning coming to this planet. We weren't hatched on this planet, people. We never were. Now we're being born on this planet, but we didn't come here. I mean, we came here before we started breeding on this planet. All right? You don't have to believe that. You'll find out someday. You ever want to get off of this planet and not reincarnate, you're going to have to learn the truth. My truth, your truth, the real truth is what you're going to have to learn. What it means, how do you get to that truth? Who guides you? Who directs you to it? I can direct you to it. But you have to do the work, and you can get there if you want it. But you have to really want it. But sadly, who's in power of this planet? God, Jesus, Moses, Lucifer, Satan. Only one of them is. Only one of them are. God does not sit there on a throne or whatever you want to put him on, and the way people word it, and he decides what's good for you, what's not good for you, how he's going to protect you. No, but that's not freedom. Freedom means to allow you to create and do whatever you want. And hopefully you will follow the true path. Sadly, it doesn't happen. I don't meet people that follow it. People don't even know or understand what that means. What's a true path? I'm on a true path. Why? And Jesus said this, but you won't find it in the Bible. It said the most spiritual path will have the least followers. Always. And it's a fact. Check out any religion. See how many people they follow. But sadly, we have so many little religions that have very little truth. They're working on it, but they're not ready to move into a higher state of being like a world religion that's accepted as an important religion. Santeria, voodoo, witchcraft, all those things. They're religious paths to those people. And I know for a fact, when I was 17, a friend of mine was a wrestler and a lawyer. And she went to court in New Jersey and made witchcraft a legal religion. Seriously. So, what do you want out of a religion? What do you want out of a spiritual path? What do you want out of life? You shouldn't want too much because you're not going to get much. Any spiritual truth, any more guidance in the next realms or worlds that you're going to go to when you leave this one, when your physical body dies. Not when you get on a spaceship and travel through space, because that's not going to happen in your lifetime. Anyway, oh, well, how many people do you think they're going to ship up in 5 years or 10 years? How old are you? Well, maybe you'll get to go on a ship to go around the moon, or go to the moon, go to Mars. And then what? Are you going to stay there? Do you want to stay there? Do you think that's where you need to go? Heaven's not the word that people think it is. All right, and people say heaven on earth. No such place. Even Moses was wrong. Strike me down dead if I'm lying. Moses didn't know what he was doing. When he brought people to a promised land, he was bringing them there, but he didn't know how he was bringing them there either. And I'm not going to go into that now. But Moses didn't bring the people to the promised land the way they thought he was, or the way he told them he was. Because the so-called promised land, when he brought his people, he wasn't allowed in. That's what you heard, right? Also, when they got there were people there that weren't Christians. So guess what? They had to kill them all. Fact, people. That's in the Bible too, if you want to believe it or not. Man thinks heaven's here. It's not. Think God and Jesus dwell here. They don't. Why would they? Would you dwell in hell? Does God have to come down and sit in hell? No. Did you ever watch the movie Lucifer? It should have been called Satan, but it was called Lucifer. Most people in religions and weird paths follow Lucifer. Not that it was God or is God, because it isn't. Lucifer was one of the highest angels, and he still is. A lot of angels fell. But here's the thing, people. Only 9 angels are mentioned in the whole Bible. 9. I could read them to you if you want. And all their names are on them except one of them, and one of them sounds like an alien. But here, people, think about this. In Revelations, St. John wrote Revelations. He was a prophet. He wrote about end times. He wrote about what's happening. He wrote what prayers can do, what are called sins cannot be prayed about and getting rid of. In other words, you can't get rid of certain things no matter how you pray. And people don't understand that because they never finish reading Revelations. It's a short chapter. Even if you're not a religious person, read it. It's probably the most important part of things that are happening and are going to happen. And Jesus isn't going to come down here. Put that out. My life's on the line with that one. If he did, I'd be the first to stand in front of him and protect him. Period. But that's not going to happen. There's no reason for him to come here. All the spiritual people, where are they? There are none. Do I say I'm spiritual? No. Why? Because I'm in hell. When I get out, I can say I'm spiritual. I'm on a spiritual path, but I'm dwelling here. I could have left. My choice to stay here. I had 5 death experiences, but I chose to stay here for a little while longer. Seemed a little bit longer than I wanted to, but I'm completing what I needed to complete, which is why people come here. Complete your first step so you can take your second step. But if you're so busy with the 5 passions of the mind and listen to Satan, not aliens, Satan, you'll never leave. Aliens don't have a God. Prove it. Prove they do. Listen to the alien interrogation online. It's real. But that's one alien talking about what it knows, which is very little. What it thinks it knows. I was one of the 7 people that came from Venus, trying to find out what she knew about Jesus, which she didn't know anything, but her path teaches her, on her planet teaches her certain things, but they don't know. People outside of Earth don't know much about Jesus. He wasn't a big populated person when he was alive. The world didn't know him and accept him. They started accepting his teachings through only 2 people. Well, 3. Mary Magdalene, Thomas, and Mary Magdalene's daughter. The Knights of Templar built temples and followed them. Do you know they were most of them, 90% of them were eliminated, kind of like they did to the native people. And Christianity destroyed native teachings and beliefs and religions. Because they were afraid of what? What did they call native people? The demons. Why is the devil related as red? Because it was the red-skinned people they called evil people. I'm not making this up, people. It's true if you want to believe it or not. All right. Half of my truth, maybe even a little more, comes from past life experiences of all my past lives. All of them. And out of hundreds, only 3 of them were important or are important. You can live a whole life thinking you're doing miracles for this planet. Doesn't mean you know or do anything about the next realm you're going to, or stay there. And if you're so attached to this planet, you will come back to this planet over and over and over. If you listen to Satan, get pulled into the passions or desires and all those words, why would you want to leave? Men have like this important thing to keep their name going. Why? Well, I want to live forever. You can't live forever through somebody else's name. Now, we all have a spiritual name. I use the word spiritual because it vibrates in all the realms, and it's what you are. Any being in any other realm knows you by that sound. And we all have a different sound. I say mine pretty much, and well, aren't you afraid somebody's going to steal it? You can't steal that. You could try to, but it's going to hurt you more than help you if you do. But God itself, what do you think it is? What do you think is the difference between alien gods and God? A lot. Well, the idea that alien gods were accepted all through different paths and religions, meaning the Egyptians, the Mayans, the Aztecs. Guess what, people? They were lied to because they weren't working with the God. Their ideas, and you could look at the tablets and different things, the paintings and all that. They didn't understand death. They didn't understand reincarnation. They didn't understand any of it. Never mind who and what God was. Remember, love didn't exist until 2,000 years ago. 4,000, 10,000, 40,000 years ago, love did not exist. When it did exist, it existed for a short period of time. And that was when Atlantis was in its middle peak and going into its end time. How do I know? I was there. What does it mean? Well, I'll tell you this. It was actually the only time people and part of the planet was actually the Garden of Eden. The story of Adam and Eve is another fake story, the same as, I don't want to go into all the stories that aren't real. I mean, they tie in the Anunnaki and all these other things to the founding fathers that created Moses and every other thing. But it's not like that, people. Nobody can tell you how we even got here, or even admits to how the human races got here. Black, red, yellow, and white are the 4 races that remained here, that are still here. All right. 5 other races left, including the green and blue race. All right. I mean, and a lot of them were classified as deities. One of them stayed, of each one. I mean, Green Tara is green. I mean, the different deities have colors, and they're basically the color of their race. But I dealt with Green Tara first, then Shiva. Shiva is a man, if you don't know that. All right, and what he did is kind of anything in those time frames from the beginning of Hinduism all the way up to the middle of our century was based on sex. Not God, not love, but sex. Kundalini energy, Kama Sutra energy, all those words. What do they mean? Nothing important to God. It doesn't bring you to God. You don't become God, and you won't experience God that way. Your body will experience extreme pleasure. Of course it will. But that's all going through the mind and the 5 senses of the mind. And when you let go of the body and you step out of it, you are no longer dealing with that. You're not people. People want the truth. At least they say they do. When they hear parts of it, they can't take it and they have to leave. They can't deal with it. Don't listen. That's fine. They're not ready to. They like hell. They like being here. They like growing flowers and smelling them and jumping off a cliff with a parachute or hang gliding, whatever. Climbing a mountain and hoping that you might not fall, just to get a cheap thrill. All that is the illusion that keeps mankind here. You're going to find the most perfect wife? Really? I mean, the person that wrote Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus was kind of right on. We're really separate entities. We don't think, feel, and love, and all those words don't go together exactly at all. And the understanding of a word, including love, is at billions of levels. Meaning probably just about everybody on this planet has a different level of understanding of the word love. And out of, I'd say, 8 billion people, maybe 1% of 1% of that understand God, know God, and deal with God. Isn't that a little bit scary? It should be. Where you are, where you're going, how you're going to get there, and why. What do you think is going to happen when you die? Do you care? Some people are afraid of death. I had 5 death experiences, and every one of them was better than the one before it. Meaning I had a greater experience. And that's not why I died or almost died. But within that time frame, I learned and saw and went through many incredible things. I didn't start just writing healing books or I'm this or I'm that. No. I don't claim to be anything other than a person right now. A little more aware than most because I had 5 death experiences. I learned to leave my body. I spent about 45 years traveling out of the body. I met with deities, angels along the way. I live with Jesus, so if you want that truth, I can give it to you anytime. But when the Da Vinci Code came out, I was ready to write a book on Jesus, but I said, no, I better not. And when I watched the Da Vinci Code, when it talked about Jesus might have had a daughter, which he did, people weren't ready for that. People don't want to hear the truth. They're already programmed into the idea that man wrote. Man likes to create an idea, a perverted, twisted idea of truth. What is God? For the people that tune in later or came in or come in, do you want the truth? Do you want to understand what God really is or what it really isn't? Any workshop I do, I put it this way, and to get a person started on what's going to happen. And you can do this right now. Get a piece of paper and a pencil, pen, whatever. Do it on your computer if you can, but put God is on the left corner and God is not on the right corner. And in the God is, you can't say God is everything. Write down everything you believe to be God. All right? On the other side, everything you believe God isn't, a liar, a cheat, whatever you can perceive God is not, put it on that side. And spend some time doing that. It'll open your thinking a little to understand what you think you know, which is hardly anything. Oh, you don't know me. I don't have to. Nobody on this planet's proven they know God. Nobody. Nobody's talking about God. God, not God talked to me and said, love each other. No. If God's going to talk to you, it will be you alone. About you, not about the world. If God's going to talk to the world, he'll talk to somebody that's going to do something for the world. But God doesn't talk to those people in general either. You think Sodom and Gomorrah, God came down and talked to them? No. Adam and Eve, do you think God, well, that's a fake story, but you think God came down and talked to those 2 people? No. But Lot, when he was leaving, do you think God came down and talked to him? No. Angels do that work. Angels do all the dirty work in the astral plane and this realm. All right? Meaning all the pathetic stuff that we do. They're not teachers. Angels don't sit down and teach classes. That's not what they do. It's not their role. It's not their place in their reality where they created and are allowed to stay. Now, only one religion I know contradicts that, and that's the Muslim religion. And they say Muhammad met Gabriel. Gabriel's an angel, if you don't know it. But he met with him, and he got 32 phrases from Gabriel. And how did Muhammad know it was Gabriel? Because his brother said, "You know who you're working with? Gabriel." How would his brother know? Everybody's experience is different when they experience it. So if I said I saw this man with a blue hat and red shirt, oh, that's Peter Pan, or just contradicting everything that you know. How would somebody know Gabriel unless they work with him? And did they ask him, "Who are you?" "I'm Gabriel." You think angels have to tell you their name to work with you? We all have angels around us, people. Whether you work with them or not, whether you listen to them or not, is still your choice. And you probably will not. I mean, when Lot was told by an angel that the city's going to be destroyed and not to turn back, what's his wife do? "What's going on back there?" And they say she turned to a pillar of dust, dirt, whatever. She was burnt up by a meteorite. Meteorites hit that area. They proved the time frame, and it was a meteor shower that hit that area. So, miracles that happened in Bible stories are actual things that happen, whether somebody could predict and put them all together like Moses did. It's a little different. But they can explain everything that Moses did step by step. How the red tide hit the water, and that forced the frogs out. And then the disease came out with that. And each thing there was a gas that rose over it. I mean, all these things happened because of natural events in nature. But for them all to happen at the same time, within a sequence and everything else, is a little more controlled. But again, Moses didn't know what he was doing. In detail, he walked people around in circles. 40 years, 40 days. Right? Why? Because, I'll explain it if you don't understand. Everybody he took out of the prisons, all right? I call them prisons. All right? They all died. Their children got to the end of the road. So, 4 generations, the children that were alive made it to the promised land. See, they don't know how and why Moses wasn't really allowed into the promised land. Because he didn't die, that's one. The promised land is not earth. This isn't a promised land. Nothing good is on this planet, people. You could pray to every single thing on it. Doesn't make it better. And, okay, let's do something real simple. The difference between heaven and hell. What do you think's in heaven? Beautiful lights and beautiful colors. And what else? Angels and gods. Gods? Angels? What are they all doing? Floating around? Waving at you? So now let's go to hell. You know hell by Dante's Inferno, Lucifer the movie series. What happens in hell? Oh, you get burnt up. Really? What's that mean? Now, to go beyond that, you have to understand what you are, what Jesus talked to. All right? Not this body, this lame body that gets all kinds of sickness, disease, hurt, and every other thing. Could do all kinds of bad things. Not that. Jesus never talked about that. He talked about sins and said, well, just walk away from them and don't go back. How many people can do that? The Catholic religion said, okay, we'll create catechism, we'll create Friday Forgiveness Day, and everybody goes to their priest and asks for forgiveness, and it's all forgiven. See, now Buddha didn't believe in a God. His teachings are limited to the astral plane. I could talk any way I want. My partner's not here. She's a Buddhist, all right, and she's a Lama. So her belief and teachings are so different than mine, all right. There is a God, people. Whether you want to understand what it is different or not. It's not what you perceive. Now, when people in those days talked about God, Jesus said, "How am I going to explain God to these people?" They were farmers, fishermen, horseshoe makers, shoemakers. What do they know about anything? The schools were limited. How many words did they have in those days? So, how far did they go spiritually? They didn't. Who was teaching them? Jesus was? Jesus died. Jesus' disciples were killed. There was a book rewritten many times called the Bible. But there was a book called The Rancher written about, I don't know how many years ago, a long time ago, but in our time frame, I would say. But the Emerald Tablets was written, probably the first written tablet on this planet. And one person found one under a pyramid. Then they were called the Emerald Tablets. Supposed to be 3 more. All right, they could be on the different pyramids, but they never found them. And that became the White Brotherhood. I was initiated into all that as well. I used to go with Sean David Martin to the Global Life Expos and things like that. I was his bodyguard, and I worked with him. Stayed at my house sometimes, whatever. But those frames of that time frame. Who was talking about God? Who was talking about religion? Who was talking about spiritual paths? They couldn't even get along. If there was 20 different kinds of religions and spiritual groups of people, none of them really linked up with each other. Because all they cared about is what they preach, sell, and give away, not what anybody else does. Does that help mankind move forward? You think you can unite if you don't work and try to accept people for what they are? Like I said, I can accept people as long as they don't hurt other people. And if you can, and if you accept that in your religion, something's wrong. You don't need to be in my reality, and I don't want you there. All right? So what are you going to do next? Are you going to be part of that? Or are you going to move forward? All right, people, I want to say a couple things. I don't know how long I'm going to keep going, but if you feel that this is any kind of important thing for anybody to hear, send the link to everybody you know. It'll be up. It's recorded, and you can pull it up anytime. But seriously, people, I met with many people, my luck or my unluck, the most spiritual people, religious people, and things like that, or at least claiming it. I had a Lama, his name was Dada, and he wanted me to travel with him, and I said no. And all these people have their, quote, blocks, like, he said you can't eat meat, which I said, well, what's that mean? You can't eat meat. Did God create meat for a reason or not? Again, how many people relate to what God was teaching? Oh, I said something, I never finished it, about this paper. You put God is on one side and God is not on the other. All right? Do it, take time and do it. At the end of the day or the next day, go over it and see what you think is right or wrong. I will tell you this. Probably, most likely, everything you wrote on the side that God is not. And you probably wrote very little on the God is not side because you don't know what God is. How could you say what God isn't if you don't know what God is? God's not a man. God doesn't look like us. God doesn't walk and talk like us. What do you know about God? Do you think God loves everybody? Why would God have to love everybody? If I had 3 sons, like in the Bible story, one was a murderer, one was a rapist, and one was a preacher, should I love them all the same? Yes, because they're my son. How many parents love their children exactly the same? A parent usually loves one more than another. And it shows. and that is abuse. You shouldn't have children if you can't take care of them all the same. What can you offer a child you bring into this world? What did your God teach you to teach them? To pray to Jesus? And what's that do? Do you think Jesus needs you to pray to him? Think Jesus is going to come down and forgive you? You believe it, but why? You know, there's what, 8 billion people on the planet. How many people pray to a God? A lot of them. All these children that are sick praying, pray to God. All these adult women, young women praying to God. All these men, adults and young men praying to God. And God protects them, right? From what? Car crash, plane crash, drowning, a flood, a tornado, tsunami. What's God protect them from? Children, crib death and things like that. What's God protecting them from? Think about it. You're wrong. Your truth is twisted, programmed, and a lie. You know nothing about God. You know nothing about the size of God, what God looks like, where it dwells, and what it does, what it thinks. Oh, I love this planet. I'm going to take care of all these people. What's he taking care of here? And people have to say he. What is he doing? He's not a he. It doesn't care about planet Earth. Not the way you perceive it to be. About every ant, every caterpillar, everything that's crawling on this planet. Why? God cares about beings and entities and with him. And you can't do that work here. You can't make everybody spiritual in hell. They have to truly want it. They have to work at it. They have to become that themselves. No speaker, no psychic, no religious person can go, in the name of God, you're aware of being, and make you that. The psychic abilities, no one on this planet has them. And if they do, they have this much of one or two. There's 32 psychic abilities that exist on the astral plane. And you need to go through ascension to attain that. Nobody does. Only 2 beings that I know in history that went through ascension. Meaning who had the abilities. And I know you don't know this, and you probably will never hear it again. Mary Magdalene was Jesus' wife. You might have heard that. Mary Magdalene became an ascended master. Meaning she had to learn everything Jesus knew. Why? She had to teach the disciples everything that they knew. Jesus died. He was killed. He couldn't finish teaching them. And how could a woman that wasn't that teach them anything? Women weren't accepted as anything. Remember that. Men didn't listen to women. Peter himself had the hardest time to accept Mary Magdalene as his teacher. A woman, never mind his teacher. To let go of all his program morals and ideas. He eventually did. When he did, he was allowed to see Jesus. Now, Peter was one of the top disciples. Paul, all right. I just want to say a little bit on him. Paul, who was a disciple, never met Jesus in a physical body. How did he meet him? The way Jesus taught him how to meet him. And how's that? I'm going to tell you. Read the Bible. See if you find it in your Bible, because you're not going to find it. But he did meet with Jesus in his experience. And he also had somebody following him, studying under him. But how could he say that? How could he know that? By awareness. When you attain it, you know it. It can't be taken away. Can't be reprogrammed. And it protects you more than anything else can on this reality. Against aliens, creatures, beings, deities, you name it. I'm sorry, I'm expecting something really important. I hear my phone, but listen, make sure it's around somewhere. Sorry about that. I'll be right here. Where did it go? I'm waiting for a delivery, and it's really important that I let him deliver it. or I'll be in trouble. Oh, somebody put my link up already. Well, I'll have to get to this later. People think I can talk on 3 different levels. I can't. I'm not claiming to be that kind of a person either. All right, Mr. JCK. Jesus is the way. The way to where? Do you know what he was teaching? Do you know anything about Jesus? What's not said in the Bible? What was his favorite food? Did he ever have sex? Did he ever love someone? Of course he did. Mary Magdalene was his wife, his mother of his child. Period. Whether you believe that or not. And the other thing is, when that was going down, that's how people learned what love was. Jesus said the way. People don't understand Jesus' way. They didn't understand what God was. All right. God wasn't a man, but he had to say Father. How do you explain God to a person that doesn't know anything? Say God. No. What is a God? Man, I got a riot going on in the neighborhood. Hold on 1 second. Let me close the window. I am sorry about that, people. I live in a really bad place in Hawaii, whether you believe that or not. But again, let me just finish what I was trying to say. When you talk to people that, I wouldn't say lame, but there's a word for people that are unaware of anything. Yeah, truth. What is the truth? God is. All right. And then what is God? Until you experience it, you won't agree or understand it. And you have to experience it to know it. All right. And when people say God's this and God's that, you could prove the opposite is true. Who does God protect in the physical reality? Kennedy? Nostradamus? What kind of people does God protect and keep safe on this planet that don't have to suffer? Think about what protection means. Soul, which is what you are, all right? Jesus taught about it, but nobody heard it. Soul leaves the body. When he talked about being on the right side of my father and all that stuff, and be right side with me and all that, guess what? He wasn't talking about your body you're hanging out in right now. If somebody shot you and blew your head off, you'd be something, but not that body anymore. You'd be soul. And it would be up to your karma where you go from there. And who you follow, and what you believe in. There's something outside right now. But what do you believe in? Ideas that man has created and said over and over and believe themselves? They don't know God. They don't know Jesus. Well, now, just so you know, all the disciples were killed, except Thomas. Thomas went to India. He was recognized as Jesus when he went to India. That's why they say Jesus was in 2 places and Jesus lived in India and all that. No, he didn't. Also, Mary Magdalene escaped as well. She went to France. She taught. The Knights of Templar followed her, and they still do. All right? The truth's out there. But even the Knights of Templar, I was going to become a Knights of Templar. But it's about money now, and it's about love and all the words that had nothing to do with soul. All right? When people say, well, they don't know. I mean, experiences can happen over and over. You can dream, fantasize, or meet with a deity, or an angel, or a demon. One thing you need to know, I learned this a long time ago. Any form, they could take on any form. A deity could be anything you want it to be. An angel usually comes to what you accept and believe it is. I mean, the idea of Jesus being a man with blonde hair, blue eyes, never happened. All right? So the image they created for hundreds of years are false. All the things you believe are lies when it comes to Jesus and God. Very few people went out of their way to let go of earth to get into the inner worlds where God created. God says and Jesus said it. And it's the most important sentence that Jesus says in the Bible. In my Father's mansion there's many rooms. What's that mean? A bathroom, a kitchen, a dining room, a living room? Think about it, people. It's not what you perceive it to be. There's realms, the astral planes, where all soul goes when it dies. Then, if it's spiritual enough, it can go to the next realm, which is the third realm. Usually not. There's 5 beings there that play the role of a little god on that realm. All right? And they stop souls from moving on. You have to vibrate at a certain level to move on from there. And you're not going to get that from anything you think you learn on this planet. And nobody can teach you that. Well, listen to this and close your eyes and believe you're a 6-dimensional being and you become that. No, you don't. You can tell yourself anything you want. You can believe anything you want. But are you believing the truth? The way to where? The astral plane? That's where you're going to go when you die, period. Whoever writes that. Based on your karma and your awareness. God's not going to let some idiot soul, crazy soul, into the higher realms. Why would it do that? It casts angels down because they weren't doing what they were supposed to do. So imagine this. You're no angel. You don't become an angel because you die. So where do you think you're going to go? Back to hell. Learn some more. You didn't learn anything. You're still following Satan. Attachment to family is actually a vice that keeps you here. Lust, greed, anger, vanity, and attachment. 5 words. I created them, changed them to sex, drugs, drinking, cheap thrills, make-believe love. All right? They're all false. So people, look, I'm not going to go too much further. Like I said, I have something really important coming. I don't know when it's going to come. No, my UFO day is Tuesday. Sorry, people, if you're thinking I'm going to be talking about aliens the whole time. No. I do a show with Tina, and she's been abducted many times, and that's what we're talking about. But she doesn't like to talk about spiritualism because her help never came to her all her life. She's been abducted over and over. She's radioactive right now. She's been sickly from radiation problems and things. So it's not like a place for her to say, well, Jesus protected me or God changed my life and helped me. No, it's not like that. And the things that happened to her are really bad. Now, my other friend, Sean David Morton, he's out on the street. I mean, he just got out and he's dealing with a world that's pretty harsh while he's sick and dying. He's trying to stay here as long as he can. Obviously, most people do. And people still attack him because they didn't understand or was told something and they accepted it. All right, I consider him one of the most aware people, psychic people that I know, that I met in my lifetime. The word spiritual, I don't give to anybody. Not the Pope, not the Dalai Lama, not Eckhart Tolle, Deepak Chopra. They cannot talk about God. Not one of them can. And they're supposed to be the top 5 spiritual people on the planet. Oh, live in the moment. You can't live any other place. Unless you go to a time machine, which the government has, but not everybody's going to go through it or able to. But you're living in the moment, all right? From the time you open your eyes, you breathe, you're here. You're nowhere else. You can dream and fantasize, but you are here. Be the best you can. You are the best you can. Just because you're not making millions of dollars doesn't mean you're not the best you can. Because you don't drive around in a Mercedes, you're not the best you can be. People that think money is important. And now, this is a fact. And Jesus said it 3 times in the Bible alone. It's easier for a camel to go through an eye of a needle than a rich person to get into heaven. Every rich person should hear that and let it ring in their brain, because they're not going to get into heaven. Sorry, not my words. Why? Money is an attachment to this reality. Thinking money is important is an attachment to this reality. Technology and science are attachment to this reality. Science will never help you experience God. No matter what you believe, going in a flotation tank or any of these things, it's not going to get you closer to God. Doing ayahuasca, it's not going to get you closer to God. Maybe closer to your own awareness, but not to God itself in any way. Until you become an aware being, will you ever get close to God? And if you do, nobody's going to like you. Nobody will believe a word you say. Like I said, they all believe Paul when he said what he wrote and everything. Why? Well, he was a disciple, and that makes everything he says true. When Jesus died, I say killed, his disciples were all going different ways. They had nowhere to go. They didn't believe a word they were taught. Because what Jesus was teaching was not about being good and walking around and all that. It was teaching about how to leave the body and what soul is. And if they didn't understand that, how can they meet Jesus as a soul being? They couldn't. So, when the truth comes out, which it won't, because the population's changing in a great way, and it's going to be a lot. I'm not going to get into the negative side of everything that's going to be happening, but Revelations, read it. John wrote what's going to happen. Everything he says, the 7 plagues, the horsemen and all that, read it all. It's related differently because think about how long ago it was written. The same as they say chariots or UFOs. And the truth is there, people. All right, I'm going to end it now. Questions, please email me, text me, Skype me. I'll put my email up there, but my Skype is Hawksblood11. I also have an email, How to See God, but I'll leave one up there for now. All right. The truth's out there, people. Whether you want to hear it, find it, that's up to you. But if you don't want to find it, you'll never find it. It's not just going to come to you because you're a good person. And what is the definition of a good person? We have programmed ideas. Again, what is God? What God isn't. Next time I do a show, I'll answer that. All right, like what I'm getting into today. But enjoy your day, wherever you are, morning, noon, or night. Hopefully, things are going okay. I mean, I'm seeing horrible things going down. Crime is incredible here, where I live. The war that's going on is horrible. The things that are happening are horrible. What's happening to the planet is horrible. So these dreamers saying everything's getting better. Nothing is getting better now. Not one thing. We haven't created one spiritual thing in 40,000 years. And you should look at that. We created weapons and we're creating more weapons. Tesla brought more weapons to this planet. The HARP system, time travel. Free energy? Where? Having a car with batteries? How are you going to charge the batteries? With electric, with gas engines creating energy to charge it. We're not creating the truth. We're not releasing the truth to mankind. Well, they're not getting it, and they believe the lies. And they're going to make everybody get electric cars. It's not going to change the contamination they're doing to the planet or the universe. It's not. Way back, they said Freon was destroying the ozone layer. Freon's heavier than air. It can't go up into the stratosphere. All the things they tell you are lies. What they put in your water was poison. It wasn't anything else. After World War I, they had a lot of toxic chemicals they couldn't get rid of. How to get rid of it? They paid 20, 30 scientists to come up with a cure or a use for this poison. Oh, put it in water. Fluoride will clean your teeth. No, it doesn't. Why do you think they're taking it out of everything right now? Because they ran out of it finally. But they had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of barrels of drums of fluoride. They couldn't legally dump it anywhere. The truth's out there, people, but you don't want to hear it. You'd rather believe fluoride cleans your teeth. Oh, this is good for that. Baking soda and peroxide. 2 miracle cures for almost everything. You can't say that, can't sell it as that. Check what they're doing. Why they're putting it in toothpaste. Why they're putting it in liquids. And why they tell you to drink it and all these other things. Well, in other countries, it could be injected right into cancer and kill it instantly. They can't do it in the United States. All right, people. Peace, love, compassion, whatever you need in your life. Hope you find it. Hope you get it. Don't stop. Don't give up. Don't listen to anybody. And your heart will lie. Love is always a downfall as well. Oh, I believe it because she's my wife. I believe it because she's my husband. I believe him because he's my husband. I believe him because of because. No, people lie. Even in incredibly, supposedly loving situations. Till next time, people, Tommy.Hawksblood here. Please tell your friends, enemies, whatever. Send them my link. Let them attack me if they want. That's fine. I don't get much hate mail because most people won't listen enough to hear enough to hate me. That's their problem. But till now, enjoy yourself. Get what you can. Things change. Things get better. No. But you become aware of why they're happening. Why you're here is the most important thing you need to learn. And then the second thing is how to get out of here. You don't want to stay in hell. You don't want to reincarnate back here or want to come back to my family. You're not going to be the same person. All right, with that, people. Till next time.